First of all, I'll say morning to all of you. I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you, as I always do, about facts. I want to first extend my condolences to the families of those who are grieving the loss of a 10-year-old. This is a dark day for our community. Probably the darkest I've ever had it. As mayor of the city of Youngstown. Any loss is unacceptable, but when you have an innocent child, a 10-year-old child, victim of senseless violence, my heart aches right now. Sad. To believe that we would be in this place, in this community, this place in this country, that we have individuals that, for whatever reason, want to use gun violence, and the result is a baby. Being a father, yeah, it's heartbreaking. I can't imagine tomorrow morning, my son's headed to school. I can't imagine him not being able to go to school tomorrow because he's dead. I asked the question, when is this senseless gun violence going to stop? Nobody is winning, and we're losing so much more, greater than a feud or a disagreement with one another. This has to stop. We're not solving anything. Families are losing loved ones because of gun violence. Because you don't like me, I said something wrong to you. That's what we're dealing with. And as mayor of the city of Youngstown, I get a call often, and some of them are not great. This has to be the darkest day for me. When now our babies are victims of adult feuds. Street justice has proven not to be an answer. Put down the guns. Put down the guns. As you see, this is not the answer. We're asking for anyone that knows anything to say something if you know something. And don't tell me you don't know. Don't tell me you didn't see it. If you don't do it for me, do it for this 10-year-old child who lost her life because we're having street violence and a feud because we don't know or we don't like one another. And today I'm offering up to $10,000 for anyone who leads for good information to solve this case. Chief, you want to say something?
As you're all aware, earlier this morning we had a shooting that occurred on Samuel Street in the city of Youngstown. This shooting resulted in the death of a 10-year-old child, a female. 3 adults were also shot at this Samuel Street address, but their injuries do not appear to be life-threatening. There was also a shooting scene at South and Palmer where a male adult succumbed to gunshot wounds and a passenger in his vehicle was also injured. Now, early stages of this investigation indicate that the 2 shootings are linked, but that will be officially determined after further investigation. Enough is enough. How many times do I have to stand here and keep saying this? Enough is enough. This tragedy speaks to the brazenness of those committing these crimes. Gun violence is not a new issue. It is a continuing tragedy that destroys lives, families, and communities. Now, when a 10-year-old baby loses their life because these individuals choose to settle their conflicts by shooting a gun into a home, this is going to stop. The Youngstown Police Department will respond to this tragedy immediately. So I'm putting you all on notice now. We will have criminal checkpoints all throughout the city. And finally, the mayor and myself, I implore anyone with information to please contact the Youngstown Police Department Detective Bureau at 330-742-8911, or please call our Crime Stoppers at 330-746-CLUE.
Questions?
Forgive me for making you reiterate, just so I am straight. You believe the two incidents are linked?
Yes, sir, I do. Absolutely.
Can you say,
I will not go into detail about that, Jerry, but we do believe that they're linked.
the one other thing that we have heard independently, people living on that street or used to live on that street on Samuel, that house was, for lack of a better term, notorious, that there was a lot of drug activity that neighbors believed, a lot of gunplay.
You will be correct. If you're assuming that, you will be
I was
correct,
gonna say,
sir.
can you
Yes.
elaborate on any of that?
You will be correct. Yes, sir. I'm a little upset right now. I'm telling you, Jerry, I am.
I can imagine.
What was the motive? Do you guys happen to know?
I don't know. We probably don't know. They might not know.
Do we know why that 10-year-old may well have been, did she live there? Was she there apparently with someone else?
Yeah, as far as I know, she lived there, yes.
Joe?
Can you say on Samuel Street, were the people who were injured, were they inside the house or outside the house?
The people that were injured were outside.
Okay.
The child was
Child
inside.
was inside, okay.
I will say that.
Okay, thank you.
Can you elaborate on the criminal checkpoints that you're going to implement?
I will not give you details on that at this time.
Was the child in bed?
No.
So I noticed a difference in what you guys are doing right now, because these are happening very, very often, and now you're talking about criminal checkpoints and rewards of up to 10,000. Is there anything else? I can tell that you all are fed up, and the same answers that you all have been giving are not, present here in this situation. But is there anything else other than the checkpoints?
Well, the difference now is a 10-year-old child was shot and killed.
Right. So.
Yeah. So
Any life.
Yeah.
Any life is unacceptable. But when our babies are now the casualty of the feuds or the war or the street violence, we've got to do everything we can. And by all powers that we have, we will use that to find out who did this to this baby. Just understand that.
Chief, did you have that meeting with the bars for the other shootings?
I'm not going to discuss that.
Okay. And what about you had a meeting with Jamamick Wilson?
Any other questions about yesterday's? This is just about this child today. I want the focus to stay on this 10-year-old child who's dead today. Those other questions we can answer later. Any other questions about the 10-year-old child? Joe?
If this was you alluded to a feud and stuff, is this related to anything else that's been ongoing, any other shootings in the city? Has there been any other violence linked to these groups, or can you say?
I can say, yeah, this is linked to
This is linked to other
Yes,
violence?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we know, we're aware just because we covered it, there was a shooting just about a year ago at that same address. Could that have been linked to what happened overnight?
I can't say that for sure, Jerry.
But you think that other incidents
Yes.
that have happened,
Yes.
this is a continuing?
Yes.
Do you have any suspects?
I don't
Was
know
this
if
like
you can-
drive-by, do you think?
I don't know at this time.
Or was this a potentially shootout between people outside the house and people in that truck?
Possibly.
Any other questions?
Have you identified any of the people involved? I don't want to call them all victims necessarily, but have you identified any of those involved?
No, not at this time.
Do you know what the relationship is between the crash and the Samuel shootings?
No, I can just tell you that we believe that it's linked to the Samuel incident. That's all I can tell you on that right now, yeah.
Do you mind, if I see,
Yeah, Pastor.
Pastor, did you want to speak to it, if you could come to the podium, if you can? You've led a number of prayer sessions, peace walks. Your thoughts on
Well, we're in a war. We're in a war, and we understand that there are casualties in every war. We're trying to minimize those, but we're not giving up the fight, because there are those who believe that our marches and prayers and what we're doing as far as the Stop the Violence campaign, well, they say, well, it's not working. Well, what's working is doing nothing. What's working is what we're doing in an attempt to reduce the violence here in the city of Youngstown, if not stop it altogether. We're in it for the long haul. It's going to take a sustained effort. That means we got to stay with it. And it's a community problem. It is not a police problem. It's not the mayor's problem. It's all of our problem. And the community has to get involved at a greater level. People who know information need to come forth, and we need to solve this issue together. But we're in it for the long haul, and we believe that we're going to continue to do our prayer walks. We're going to continue to do our mentoring training, our mediation training, and send our message out to the community that we want this violence to stop. And so the more that the community gets involved, the more that we have a greater chance to end this senseless killings and violence that's happening in our community every day. And this ought to be a pivotal point for all of us. This ought to send a message to all of us how serious this is and how we have to make the sacrifice, whatever sacrifice it takes for all of us to get involved and be part of the solution. Because when we're not speaking or we're not getting involved, then we're part of the problem.
Mayor, if you want to talk to this, you've mentioned before that you've reached out to Governor DeWine, you've reached out to federal partners, the chief doing the same. We're hearing some on council are questioning, where's the state, where are the feds to help the city? Have you had any response from the governor or U.S. Marshal, FBI, whoever?
Yeah, Jerry, we have a response, but this is not just Youngstown. They're getting the same requests from everyone across the state of Ohio. So we've got to really, when we ask for some come in, the one thing I continue to ask for is for our crime lab to have a greater turnaround for ballistic tests. That's a big piece for us. So those things are still operational, and the team and law enforcement will tell you that they're in constant communication with them.
I know that in the past the city's implemented like no policy or no tolerance policies. Is that something that we'll be doing now, or you're thinking of?
Every option is on the table right now. There's nothing that within the law that we won't put in place.
Mayor, if you were speaking directly to the families that were connected to this, looking for answers, what would you say to them right now?
Like I started off, my heart and my condolences goes out to the families that are here. A lot of times we get so caught up in what's going on and realize that there's a family who's affected by this. There's someone who's grieving the loss of a child, a loss of a son, a brother, a sister. And we will do everything we can within the law to find out who did this. You good?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.